Why are you excited to be here tonight?
Because I'm just excited.
Yeah. No other explanation. Now, I do believe, tell me the truth, is it true that your dad has a ringside seat but didn't get you guys ringside seats?
That is true, but it's because of his YouTube channel, okay? It's his YouTube, okay?
Her dad's an influencer. Let him go, guys. But your dad's awesome, right?
Yeah.
See, he's awesome!
Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's the radioactive pop with Danny Limelight, United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance blog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Poppy.
Hey guys, check this out. I am officially now sponsored by Dubby. Dubby is a clean energy drink made to give you focus with no crash. If you guys are like me, you're always needing a burst of energy, especially with one with no crash. Dubby contains vitamins, amino acids, a nootropic, and 150 milligrams of caffeine. It keeps me awake with no jitters, guys. Check it out. Merch link is in the bio. Dubby. Can you hear me now? What's up, everybody? This is the pre-party. My name is Jay Cal. We come to you every Tuesday to talk all things pro wrestling, and I would be remiss if we didn't mention the passing of Sika Inoue, who is the father of Roman Reigns, and he passed away today at the age of 79. WWE Hall of Famer, more commonly known to a lot of the wrestling fans as the Wild Samoan number 2, or just Sika. Part of that patriarchy of the Inoue family, the Samoan dynasty, if you will. 79 seems, I don't know, when I was a young man, 79 seemed like a long time, and now it just seems very short. The guy started wrestling in 1973. I wasn't even born when he started wrestling. And, I kind of have hard words. I don't have any words, to be quite honest. I was a fan of the Wild Samoans growing up. I remember the Samoan SWAT team and all that good stuff too. But as the Wild Samoans, as the Islanders, they held tag titles all over the world. Stampede, NWA Vancouver, NWA Gulf Coast, Mid-South, NWA National Tag Team titles, World Wrestling Council Tag Team titles, IWA Puerto Rico World Tag Team Champions, and the WWF World Tag Team Champions 3 times. So, I mean, you could say a lot about Sika. I'll be honest, he isn't somebody whose career I followed real closely, and so it's kind of hard for me to comment on him as a performer and as a legend and all that good stuff. It's sad when anybody loses a loved one, and that was the father of Roman Reigns, your tribal chief, all that good stuff. But it sucks. I don't wish death on anybody. It is the only natural part of life, though. We do know that we're born. We know that we die, and in the middle is ours. So our condolences to the Inoue family, especially the head of the table, Roman Reigns, and his family. It's tragic, it's sad, and we move on. It's still another day. We come to you every Tuesday to talk all things NWA. My name is Jay Cal. This is the pre-party. Of course, we're here to get you ready for the Crockett Cup, getting you ready for NWA POWERRR. And some of you might have already watched it. Power kicks off at, I believe it's 7 a.m. local time on the CW app. So once that 7 a.m. threshold hits, you are allowed to watch the NWA to your heart's content. I have not watched the episode as of yet today, but I feel like I was there because I was there. I was part of the tapings there in Forney, Texas. Was there with my good friend DKM. I got to see firsthand what you guys are going to watch tonight, or you've already watched. And this was this set of the matches where it was a little bit interesting. And I use that term interesting because I don't really know how to define watching intergender wrestling in the NWA. That's not something that I ever had on the scorecard back in 2007 when I started doing this. But here we are. Here we are talking about the NWA. Here we are talking about women wrestling men, or non-binary wrestlers wrestling binary men. And it's a little bizarre to me, to be quite honest with you. It's not something that I think I've been able to completely wrap my head around. I have seen matches with women and men where it's competitive. Somebody who I've seen and I respect quite a bit is our friend of the show, Ruby Reyes. Now, I've seen Reyes in the ring with Willie Mack. I've seen Reyes in the ring with Bad Dude Tito. And it comes off as believable because Ruby Reyes is a badass. Ruby is a bigger person. Ruby isn't a smaller female. She is, she's a strong woman. If you follow her Instagram account, you can see her hitting the weights, and she's getting strong. She's getting big, and I've always been impressed when I've seen Ruby in those matches, again, with men who are, considered heavyweights. And likewise, when I see Max the Impaler, although Max being non-binary is the real difference there, Max can carry their own when they're in the ring with anybody. We've seen that. We've seen Max in the ring with Mims and handled Mims, won the title from Mims. And we saw Max in the ring with Magic Jake. And again, it was a struggle for Max, but Max was victorious, retaining the television title. So it'll be, it's interesting for me, again, as a longtime fan of the NWA, to see this process where tonight's taping and leading the matches that led up to it. I mean, putting Max the Impaler in the ring with the Fixers, right? Those are some big guys. And the Fixers did not go easy on Max. The Fixers were the Fixers. And for Max and Judias to get the win, they had to fight for it. And tonight, when they take on Blunt Force Trauma, that there's going to be some blows being thrown. And again, Carnage and Damage are not junior heavyweights by any stretch of the imagination. They are big. They are beefy. They are your NWA World Tag Team Champions with a lot to prove, right? Because, as much as Max and Judias would love to be the Crockett Cup champions, so would Blunt Force Trauma. And Aaron Stevens is certainly stroking the ego of Carnage and Damage to get them in that position to wrestle for the Crockett Cup finals and to win the finals, right? So both teams are extremely motivated, and it would be very groundbreaking for either team to win the Crockett Cup this year, be it the tag team champions, which I don't believe the tag team champions have ever won the Crockett Cup. And likewise, the historical significance between a non-binary wrestler being a part of the team that wins the Crockett Cup. Obviously, both teams are motivated. And, with James Mitchell ringside and Aaron Stevens ringside, things are going to get a little wild, if we could say wild. And then next up, also on tonight's card, and I guess now is as good a time as any to talk about that, right? You also have, like I said, the Max the Impaler and Judias versus Blunt Force Trauma. And again, I feel like that's going to be a very, it's going to be a wild match, and it's kind of hard to determine what we're going to get out of this one. Again, because Max being a unified television champion, that certainly holds some significance for the NWA, holds some significance for Max as a competitor, right? So it'll be interesting again how this all plays out. Now, if you've already seen the show, you know what happens, but if you haven't, it's all new to you. The next matchup as part of the Crockett Cup tournament is this one's kind of a doozy too, because you've got the Looks That Kill taking on Knox and Murdoch. Now, the thing I can tell you with 100% certainty is that Knox and Murdoch, don't want to be in the ring with Natalia Markova. We saw what happened to our old friend of the show, Tim Storm. He kind of had a mental breakdown during their qualifying match against the Looks That Kill. Remember, it was Jax Dane and Tim Storm taking on Brian Idol and Markova in that matchup. And neither man wanted to be in the ring with Markova, but the thing about Natalia Markova, even though she is a much smaller individual compared to the opponents that she's facing in the ring, I mean, Markova is a fighter. We know that. Markova has educated feet. She's a striker, and she can do some damage in that ring. And we saw a few weeks ago on Power where Tim Storm kind of lost his mind in dealing with Markova and put her in that iron claw and refused to let go of that hold and causing that team to be disqualified. So, the Looks That Kill, Idol and Markova, they got into this tournament via disqualification. So there's a lot for them to prove in this tournament. Like, do they actually belong? Was that a mistake? I'm not exactly sure. And it's hard to get into that, because when we see, Brian Idol, he will tell you he is the needle mover for the NWA, that he is a mover and a shaker. But Markova, both of them have just recently signed new contracts. So there's a lot to think about here. And then you've got the returning Crockett Cup champions. Has there ever been a team that has gone back-to-back, wire-to-wire, winning the Crockett Cup 2 years in a row? It could happen this year. It could happen when you've got Trevor Murdoch and Mike Knox. We affectionately call him MURKNOX here on the Alliance blog. And, they have a lot to prove too. And a certain victory in the Crockett Cup would guarantee them a shot at the blunt force trauma yet again. So it's all still up in the air, right? And now, of course, if you've already watched the show, you know who wins, you know what's going to happen. But if you haven't, I mean, there's a lot of suspense here. Who's going to win? And really, so who do they face? On one side of the spectrum, you've got, last week we saw the Southern Six get their victory, right? And we saw the Immortals. So, I mean, there's not an easy tag team after this round either. It's like there's still some pretty talented individuals. And of course, we cannot forget about our World Junior Heavyweight Champion, Joe Alonzo, fighting out of Chicago, Illinois, manifested his contract, manifested his existence in the NWA, told us all that he would be signed, made it happen, told us all he would beat Homicide. I don't think he beat Homicide. Actually, no, he did beat Homicide. He did. And then go on to defeat Colby Carino for the World Junior Heavyweight Championship. Now, again, we'll have some breaking news here. I mean, I don't think it's a surprise to anybody, but, at the Crockett Cup, Alex Taylor, who originally was scheduled to be facing Joe Alonzo for that World Junior Heavyweight title, he had to bow out of the title match because ahead of him was the opportunity to team with Kerry Morton and to fill in for Silas Mason, who did not make the Crockett Cup. So, Alex Taylor, they advanced in the Crockett Cup, which is great for them, but he also sacrificed his opportunity at the World Junior Heavyweight title. I'm sure a match will come down the road for him later, and, I'm looking forward to that as well. But tonight, I'm going to go ahead and break the news. I wanted to have the video ready, but unfortunately, sometimes technology just isn't your friend, just isn't your pal. And as much as I've tried to download the video multiple times, it just won't come up for me. But the opponent for Joe Alonzo is going to be none other than, drumroll please, a former challenger for the World Junior Heavyweight title. He challenged the night after the night 2 of the 75th anniversary show against Colby Carino. He challenged in Mexico City alongside Sal Renaro and, of course, Kerry Morton. And I'm talking about Jack Cartwheel. Jack Cartwheel representing the Lucha Libre AAA promotion. He will, in fact, be Joe Alonzo's opponent. And the matchup is a really fun one. In fact, this might have been my match of the night. I like Jack Cartwheel. I know some people will call it flippy dippy, and some people hate the flippy dippy. I like the flippy dippy. In fact, I love the flippy dippy. I love Lucha Libre. In fact, your boy Jay will be in Tijuana this Friday night to go watch the Crash Lucha Libre, which be a heck of a card. Then also tonight I have another wrestling show I'll be going to, and I'll tell you momentarily about that. But let's go to your comments. The shenanigans. I haven't even hit your comments yet. What is going on? So I want to say what's up to everyone, and thank you for joining the show today. I see Willie Bowen's in the house. He got his Tyrus joke in early, and he said, "Hey, J. Cal, Tyrus and Wrecking Ball are going to a masquerade party. The problem is, who is going to be the rear end of the horse costume? Can it be a two rear-ended horse? What would be a horse with two heads? Nothing that I would like to see." Jeremy wants to remind you, if you enjoy the pre-party, make sure to hit that like, share with your friends, subscribe, and if you haven't already, all of that is much appreciated. This channel has grown way further than I ever thought we would. We have 4.5 thousand subscribers. We're hovering closer to that 5K. The wife said when I hit 5K that I can buy my first championship title. These were all gifts, and I love them, and they're all great. But how cool would it be to see an Alliance title hanging up in here celebrating 5,000 subscribers on YouTube? The wife gave me the go-ahead. The design is already ready. I'm just waiting for 500 more subscribers, and we'll go. I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but it's all in good fun. Steve G's in the house. What's up, Steve G? Steve said that he finally got to see Heather Messing wrestle, and she's pretty and talented. Sometimes they're pretty, sometimes they're talented, sometimes they're both. Oh, there it is. That's the better joke. Willie retyped it out. Hey, Jay Cal, Tyrus and Wrecking Ball are going to a masquerade party. They argued over who would be the rear end of their horse costume. Noob is in the house. What's up, Noob? Sean Mega's here. Always good to see my pal Sean Mega. Sean Mega goes way back. Like Sean Mega, Dodie. I saw Dodie's in the chat too. These guys go back to the early days when we still had message boards. The Echo board. You guys remember how awful that thing was? Kept crashing all the time. I would get threatened lawsuits from the never mind. Jeremy reminds us that Max has been announced as being in an upcoming horror movie. Yeah, I don't know if it's already filmed or if it's going to film, but the Stifler is going to be in it. Stifler from American Pie. That was the real big takeaway I got from there. And again, Sean Mega says, I don't like intergender and comedy matches. And Willie Bowen says, I don't like intergender matches. Championship Wrestling from Jeremy says, I don't like Orange Cassidy or Christopher Daniels matches. Noob says, I'm not a fan of intergender wrestling. It was all way overkill. Yeah, so like the thing about it is, I've always said this, like wrestling is very much a variety of art. Some people call wrestling a sport. I call it an art. It's an art form. So with that being in mind, art is subjective. What applies to you, what you enjoy is very different from what somebody else might enjoy. Me personally, I just mentioned, I love Lucha Libre. I love high-flying wrestling, the flippy dippy. I love that stuff. I don't want it overly choreographed, but that's kind of what you get if you like that style of wrestling. The epitome of pro wrestling to me was the 1996 WCW Cruiserweight division, which was filled with talent internationally from Japan, from Mexico, the United States. They had talents from Germany and Canada. It was such a fun moment in wrestling. You had guys like Dean Malenko, who, man, I don't know that you can get more scientific than Dean Malenko. You had guys who were extremely technical and the ability to fly, like Eddie Guerrero or a Chris Jericho. You had the whole cruiserweight, the whole Lucha Libre invasion, where you had guys like Cico Play or Damien or my favorite, Super Calo, or Juventud Guerrera, Psicosis. Of course, Rey Mysterio Jr. Ushered in a whole wave of Lucha Libre here in the United States, and it really was significant for the WCW. And in my mind, better than the NWO, better than a lot of the other things WCW did at the time. That Cruiserweight division was solid. It was fantastic. They even briefly had that tag team division. All of that to say is that's my cup of tea. That's my style of wrestling that I enjoy the most. So with that being said, I know that everybody has a different favorite, a different flavor that they enjoy. Some people like deathmatch wrestling. That is not for me. That is not something I have any interest in. Some people like the pure Greco-Roman style of wrestling. Don't even want to watch the WWE or WCW or the NWA or TNA or ECW. They just want to watch collegiate style of wrestling, which is completely fine. That is obviously more of a sport to me than it is an art. But wrestling is very subjective. So I would never tell somebody that what they like is wrong or not good. It's just not for me. And I kind of agree with you guys. Intergender wrestling is not for me. Steve G mentions the Alliance Bear. Yeah, he's right there. He's here with us. Him and Blue Demon Jr. holding it down. Right there. I got the Blue Demon Jr. in Mexico. That was fun. Taking it over the border. They're like, you're a grown man holding a stuffed animal. Yes, I am. Robert Dinkins is here. What's up, Robert? Welcome to the show. AEW fan for life. That's great, man. AEW has some solid wrestling. I know I just mentioned wrestling styles, and it's not for everyone. Every AEW event I've attended, I've enjoyed. I've had a good time. I don't necessarily watch it on TV, but I feel like it is a fantastic product, and I feel like they get a lot of unnecessary hate. Willie Bowen says the NWA United Wrestling Network and All Japan Pro Wrestling for Robert Jenkins. And Robert says that he is not a fan of intergender wrestling as well. Noob says, I believe it's a mistake. Natalia Markova should have continued chasing the NWA Women's title. They had an opponent. They have an opponent at Crockett Cup. We know that now that we know that our women's champion defends against Ella Envy. So we do see the breakup of the very famous Pretty Empowered, which, it makes me sad mostly because I can't use this clip anymore.
Can you believe that there's some people in this world that did not tune in to the Alliance Vlog podcast? Shame on you! Shame on you! My name is Ella Envy, and I'm one half of the NWA Women's World Tag Team Champion. And I'm Kiki Page, the other half of the NWA World Women's Tag Team Champion. And you better go listen to the Alliance Vlog, what is it called again? Podcast, period. Or you're ugly. You're empowered, approved. All right.
I'm bummed I don't get to use that as part of the opening anymore. I still do sometimes. But yeah, I agree. I think Markova, I think the whole idea of putting the Looks That Kill as a tag team takes away from Markova's ability to be taken seriously in the women's division, and really kind of hurts Brian Idol's optics for me, just take him seriously as a singles wrestler. If you want to put them in some sort of stable, that'd be fine. I'd be okay with that. But in the meantime, it's like, Brian Idol's not my cup of tea either. Wrestling subjective, all that good stuff. So, it is what it is. Let's see. Robert says, Steve G says, Robert, welcome to the stream. Alliance is a fantastic bunch of guys. They're covering United Wrestling Network also. Yeah, and there is some United Wrestling Network action happening tonight. I'll get to that momentarily. Let's see. I'm KT saying I'm Joe Alonzo's mystery opponent, but I'm not his opponent. I'm KT. I don't know what you mean, Jeremy, but I also spoiled who it is. Joe Alonzo is the best thing in the NWA. Yeah, man. I think Joe Alonzo certainly has some moxie, right? And I don't mean John Moxie. I mean he's got some. He's not afraid to say some things. He's not afraid to put himself out there. That promo that he cut with Billy. I think Joe Alonzo is good for the NWA. I think he is a great addition to the NWA. Is he the one to be the top of the NWA junior heavyweight division? That remains to be seen. But I don't know, honestly, right now, who I would take the title off of Joe Alonzo for. There's been talk about a lot of talented individuals who aren't currently in the NWA challenging for that title. But honestly, I don't want to see outsiders. I want to see insiders. I don't want to see, Fuego del Sol challenging for the World Junior Heavyweight title. I want a believable opponent to be groomed to take on Joe Alonzo. And I'm tired of not seeing that. I feel like the NWA has a big enough roster, a wide enough net, that they should be developing their own talent. And it's fine to bring in these names every now and then, but especially at the Crockett Cup, I mean, he wasn't advertised as the opponent. There was no advertisement for it. So I feel like using Jack Cartwheel was kind of a misstep. I think you could have used somebody on the roster to help elevate. You could have brought Colby Carino back into the fold. We haven't seen Carino in a long while. I think the best choice that I would have brought in was Jay Spade, right, from Wildcat. I know that he isn't the most endearing talent on the roster or who's ever worked for the NWA, but he still is your number one contender for the World Junior Heavyweight title, longest reigning number one contender, and I would like to see it. So I don't know. Cartwheel is a fine choice. He's a great wrestler. I enjoyed his wrestling. I just don't know that was necessarily the choice they needed to make, considering it was an unadvertised match. It could have been anybody. Shogain is in the house. Shogain, better known as the Great Hisa, friend of the Alliance for a long time. In fact, it was the Great Hisa's work on his site, tracking the history of all of the NWA titles, that made me want to help track the history of the current NWA and what was going on. I always give Hisa a tip of the hat because he did help. He kind of, without inadvertently, he helped kind of establish the Alliance, and glad that he is a friend. Billy hacked my technology. Yeah, I mean, it's just slow internet. I mean, I've got kids who are on the Wi-Fi. They're, it's summer vacation. They're uploading, downloading. They're watching TikTok and YouTube and all kinds of stuff. Dragon Gate. I would try Dragon Gate, Dodie. I when they were Dragon Gate USA, I tried to watch it when I could. Robert says, who's your pick on Swerve or Ospreay? I mean, I think it makes sense to leave the belt on Swerve, but I also feel like he is not getting over the way they want him to. And I feel like at some point Ospreay is going to win that title, whether he wins it at Wembley or defends it at Wembley. That remains to be seen. I think the whole part of them going back to Wembley is so that they can give Will Ospreay that moment. So I'm going to say Swerve, because I think Ospreay winning the title in Wembley is going to be a very significant moment for AEW, and I think that's what's going to happen. Let's see. Robert, why doesn't David Marquez just use the MLW studios and record some shows? So there's a lot to that, right? And I'm glad you brought that up. Obviously, our pal Dave Marquez, friend of the show, there's a lot going on for Dave Marquez at the moment. It's a good segue. They are coming to Irvine tonight. There is a card in place. It's going to be West Coast Pro in conjunction with the United Wrestling Network. Some of the matches that have already been advertised that I will be there to witness live. it's so funny. My computer is definitely not working the way it's supposed to. But we've got Alpha Zoe taking on Levi Shapiro. Also scheduled is Vinny Massaro taking on Aaron Solo. Back from Mexico City, Bad Dude Tito will be taking on Titus Alexander. That'll probably steal the show. Also replacing what's his name? I forgot his name. Anyways, Royce Isaacs, his opponent has been changed. He'll be taking on Brett the Threat. That might shock a lot of people too. I'll be there. I'll be at this show. In fact, the next wrestling show I'm going to be at is this one. I'm also going to be at the West Coast Pro Show in San Francisco next month, where I will get to see Alan Angels defend the Prestige title against Starboy Charlie. And I will also get to see Kevin Blackwood defend the West Coast Pro title against Robbie Eagles. So that'll be a lot of fun. I'll be in San Francisco for that show. I'm going to go to a baseball game in the morning and a wrestling show at night, and I can't think of a better mix for that. So getting back to United Wrestling Network, and, okay, so there's a lot of things going on right now with the United Wrestling Network. Of course, you still have what's happening in Memphis. It's kind of its own vessel at this point. Memphis is doing their own thing. Now, Dave Marquez is a part of the ownership group in Memphis, but it's pretty much its own entity at this point. The Memphis Championship Wrestling, it's just kind of its own deal right now. Then you have Primetime Live, which was the pay-per-view series for the United Wrestling Network that has been on sabbatical for quite some time. They haven't had a Primetime Live pay-per-view, I think, since 2022. They might have had one in 23, but definitely haven't had anything in 24. I know that there's talks that the Red Carpet Rumble was supposed to be coming up. The last time they filmed for Championship Wrestling was in March. They filmed in Long Beach at the Thunder Studios. Since then, the Thunder Studios has been going under renovation, so they don't have that spot to film. There is more things in the fire, more stokes in the fire, if you will, for David Marquez. Of course, just announced, but it's been in the works that Dave is taking over production for MLW, which is great. That's a huge move for Dave Marquez. How does that affect the United Wrestling Network? It doesn't change anything. It's a job. He shows up for his job, he does his job, and he leaves. And one of the hallmarks of the United Wrestling Network is that Dave Marquez direction. But he also is not just the director or just a producer, but he also is the business owner. And there's times where he delegates the responsibilities to other people. So if there's ever a time where MLW is running the same night as a United Wrestling Network show, obviously Dave Marquez can allow the local production staff to take care of whatever the United Wrestling Network is doing while he is taking care of the MLW, because that's his boss at the moment. But there's also that relationship with Reality of Wrestling down in Texas. There's still things brewing down there in Texas, and I wouldn't be surprised if we hear announcements soon from that. But then Dave Marquez as an individual is also doing the production for the Rose Parade for KTLA. So he has a lot of stokes in the fire, and that's only the ones that I'm allowed to talk about. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that I'm not able to talk about yet. I understand that everyone wants United Wrestling Network to come back. They in some ways they still are, again, with what's happening in Memphis, and then of course the promotion, which name I always forget, Ironheart Pro Wrestling, I believe that's what it's called out there in Wisconsin, I think. They're still running actively. Our pal Danny Limelight just won the Future Stars of Wrestling Heavyweight Championship while he's still currently United Wrestling Network World Champion. And I believe he holds a title in Reality Wrestling too. So the stock for these guys are still high. But I don't think anything is imminent as it goes to United Wrestling Network. There is no announcement that is getting ready to break, but I'm not prepared to walk away. I don't think it's done by any stretch of the imagination. I just think right now they had a rough, just like everyone else, they had a rough COVID, right? And they stayed open and they kept producing pro wrestling. And I feel like a lot of that came back to finally catch up with them in 2023, where they had issues with some of the sponsors, right? Some of the sponsors weren't paying. And so there's still all that stuff's getting ironed out, worked out. And I think at some point, United Wrestling Network will be back. It's just a matter of when, not if. Willie Bowen says, Kenzie Page needs more women wrestlers for Mission Pro or the territories. Well, we know that there's a joint event happening currently with Mission Pro and Exodus Pro as with regards to that synergy of that women's division. I believe they call it Chasing Atlanta. And that is a women's title tournament that's kicked off at the at Mission Pro. It's supposed to conclude on August the 24th, but we do know that there will be a match for this tournament taking place at the next Exodus Pro show. In fact, let's not rest on our laurels. Let's just talk about it. Oh, actually, that already happened. Happened on June 22nd. Oops, I can take those down. The matchup was supposed to be Tiffany Nieves versus Amity Levy. And if I had to guess, I'm going to say Tiffany Nieves won that one. I could be wrong. I'm no expert, but I think that's what happened. And of course, there is more wrestling happening this Friday. Of course, we have the Endless Summer happening in Chicago. I don't have an official card lineup yet for this, but we could see on the flyer Tiffany Nieves, Natalia Markova, Carson Drake, Joe Alonzo, Matt Pardua, Brian Idol, and Talos. And I think that's Carson Drake on there. So pretty big event there on Friday, June 28th in Highland Park. Also, we have more action from the territories. We have the Night of the Daredevils with Crossfire Wrestling taking place on also Friday in Newport, Tennessee. There's going to be a 5-way match, 5-way Heart of the KFW Scramble. If you don't like intergender wrestling, you're probably not going to enjoy this, as Kylie Page, Kenzie Page, Hunter Drake, Jackson Drake, and Tyler Franks will compete for an opportunity to wrestle against Juventud Carrera, the current KFW champion. And that match will take place at Black Harvest, which is their next event. And, let's go through more of this card. We also have in action Sean Hoodrich taking on Jackson Drake. We have women tag team wrestling in action as Kenzie and Kylie Page with Danny Dills takes on Roxy, formerly of Pretty Empowered, and Brittany Jade. Wouldn't it be something if Ella Envy got involved in that matchup? Don't hold your breath, but it possibly could. And then, of course, on July 19th, you have Trials at the Troubadour for Joe Kazana Promotions, featuring the Country Gentlemen, Jack Stain, Silas Mason, Kenzie Page, the Stu Crew, and from TNA Wrestling, Chase Stevens, and from Coastal Championship Wrestling, Colby Carter. So a lot of wrestling coming up that way too. And then we know that EC3 is heading to Italy and France. Of course, Italy takes place on, I think I got that backwards. He'll be in France on July 6th. That's this next week. Next week, he'll be defending the title at I think it's BZW. And then, of course, he'll be defending it at La Notte del Campioni for the Wrestling Megastars promotion in Italy. So our World's Heavyweight Champion is continuing to hold it down, getting things done. So, yeah, a lot of fun stuff happening in the works for the NWA. Oh, and then I also was mentioning the next event for Crossfire is that Black Harvest event, and some of the artwork they have for that is taking inspiration from it, where we see Max the Impaler will be there on Friday, October 4th, 8 p.m. in Silverville, Tennessee. Of course, you also have Kylie Page there, Kenzie Page will be there. Of course, Juventud Guerrero will be there. So things are starting to look up for Crossfire. If you are in that area, I definitely recommend checking that out. But let's get to some more of your guys' comments. Let's see, because there's a lot of them. You guys are talking, and I need to catch up. Let's see. Let's see. Maybe I did read all your comments. Steve G says, oh, yeah, we talked about that. Dodie says, Natalia is Billy's buddy. And with her now officially contracted to the NWA, it will be a big, big shame if the NWA never puts a title on her. I agree. I think Markova is very talented. Like, you know, we joke around. We joke around all the time about how, you know, she's eye candy. And besides how she looks, she's actually a very talented wrestler. Like, we can't split those two as two separate things. She's an attractive woman, sure, but she's also a very lethal wrestler. She's got some very stiff kicks. Like I said earlier in the show, she's a striker, and she can cause some damage. It doesn't matter who she's facing. Now, naturally, I would feel like a matchup between her and Max makes a lot of sense, considering they had that voodoo coffin match back at Hard Times in 2022, and we never really got much out of that after that. It was a lot to do for nothing, really. It was just supposed to be a regular match that they made into a coffin match for no specific reason. So there is some animosity there. There is some turmoil there. And, you know, Markova would be, in my opinion, the right person to become TV champion, because not only would it give Markova an opportunity to get to that best of 7 and perhaps challenge Kenzie Page down the road. But really, like, I don't feel like putting Markova in a title match for the women's world title right now makes a lot of sense. I don't feel like she has the stock high enough right now to challenge for that title. She's already challenged multiple times, whether it be Camille or Kenzie, and have lost. So I feel like putting that TV title on her would be best for business, best for Markova. And when she's built up properly, maybe she could be the one to take the belt off of Kenzie. But I wouldn't put her up against Kenzie again until she's done something of note, like winning the TV title and going that route. Let's see, more comments. Steve G says, David needs to do something soon. UWN is my favorite promotion. They're close by out here within 100 miles. Yeah, I feel like, yeah. And look, I feel you too, man, because, and Dave knows this, I've supported Dave Marquez since about 2003. I've known Dave since about 2002. And whether it has been the, you know, Dave was originally one of the New Japan USA vice presidents. I don't know if a lot of people know that. And he ran a lot of events that were New Japan events here in Southern California. And, you know, I've always been a big fan of what he tried to produce then. Obviously, that New Japan relationship was only short lasting. You know, they had the relationships to kind of build that Inoki dojo up with TJ Perkins, Samoa Joe, Bryan Danielson, Rocky Romero, Ricky Reyes. There was so many talented wrestlers that went through that circle. And, you know, when that New Japan relationship was coming to a close for Dave Marquez, that's when he started promoting as part of the NWA. And at that point, we started seeing like the World's Heavyweight Champion, and we got the, well, not right away, but eventually they crowned their Heritage Champion, which for what Dave Marquez was doing, that was like their main title. That was their world title. And then with a lawsuit against TNA and the titles being released back to the NWA, that reclaiming the gold tournament that was filmed throughout the NWA never got released, but that was very Dave Marquez inspired, and we started seeing that 10 pounds of gold everywhere again. All this to say that it led to the creation of Championship Wrestling, at one point NWA, now obviously United Wrestling Network, and it had so many ups and downs to get to that point, to get to a weekly TV series. They lost their broadcasting partner here locally in Los Angeles. They used to be a part of KDOC Channel 56 here locally. That channel was bought out by a religious corporation for religious broadcasting purposes. So at that point, they were no longer welcomed on that channel, which is fine. But that also is a blow to producing the weekly television show. And I know that it aired in more than just the Los Angeles market, but combine that with some sponsorship issues and, of course, still feeling the effects of the worldwide pandemic and operating at a loss during those times. Like it took its toll. I don't think the United Wrestling Network is going to disappear. I don't think it's going to close, but they certainly have been struggling to get a foothold in 2024. And, we're in June. They did 2 sets of TV tapings to start off the year and nothing since. And as somebody who has emotionally invested in the United Wrestling Network, I, just as much as you, Steve, want them to come back. And I think they will. I just don't know when. And as soon as I know, you'll know. Dodie says, 96 WCW. Do you like the Dungeon of Doom? Love the Dungeon of Doom. Okay, Dodie, so there's obviously some things I didn't like about WCW. There's a reason why they're doing a docuseries on who killed the WCW. But no, I was not a fan of the Dungeon of Doom. I always thought it was weird. Like, the whole thing was so over the top and goofy. Never really got into it. But let's see. Hoovy is the juiciest. He is. Hoovy is the juiciest, and he is what I can't wait for is when they do the Return to the Territories programming, because Juventud will be on Power. I know that for certain, and I'm curious as to see how he's used, how he's presented, and if he goes over with the NWA fans. Because if he does, maybe we'll see Juventud, at the 76. Maybe we'll see Juventud at Salwentu. You never know. Robert says, I live in Miami. AEW needs to come here. I'm not super familiar with the geography of Florida. I know that Dally's place isn't really anywhere near Orlando. I don't know where Miami is by comparison, but it's a big state, and I don't think they can hit up everything. AEW has a good roster except for Orange Cassidy and Christopher Daniels. Fair. Although I will say this, Zack Sabre Jr. really recently put over how great of a wrestler Orange Cassidy is. And I mean, there's something to be said about that. Again, I don't care for the style of wrestling, but what he's able to do with his hands in his pockets is very entertaining, very athletic. But I'm not so good. Robert, it took them a long time to come to SoCal, despite the Jackson's home is out here. Oh, yeah, AEW. They've done a couple of shows since, though. I mean, they've done shows in Ontario. They've done shows in Inglewood. I think they even did a show out in Palm Springs, which I regret missing because that's not far from me at all. Showgrain says, you can get a new clip from the girls at Philly. Yeah, I mean, maybe, if they're available. Look, I was there at Crockett Cup. They weren't available. I was there at the, what show did I go to before that? The TV tapings, they weren't available for that. So, I would love to get more content like that for the channel. Obviously, it's always nice to have talent who can speak the name of your little sideshow podcast. I mean, we did have EC3 recently in an interview that is available on the channel. I think I'm going to post a video of it very, very soon. But he came on. He had like 5 minutes to talk with me when he was out here in Southern California. Had a nice little chat. I mean, it's already been done now, but he went to. This was just a few days before he was going to Australia, where he defended the 10 pounds of gold there. Just when they said they're thinking about a women's Crockett Cup, they disband one of the few legit women tag teams in the NWA. Very Billy. Dodie, you're so right. I mean, when you look at that women's tag team division, there is really not much there. I mean, you've got, if we're going to be 100% just teams that we have seen and that are still occasionally teaming together. You have Tiffany Nieves and you have Reka Tahaka, right? That's one team. Another team that has been on again, off again would be Taylor Rising and Natalia Markova. Now, they challenged for the women's titles, did not win, and then it seems like they broke up after that. But I guess you could piece that back together if you wanted to. And then who else is there? You know, Missa Kate. We haven't seen Missa Kate in a very long time. Maddie Rankowski and her were a great tag team. They won the women's titles, but Missa Kate hasn't landed a new tag team partner. You can't forget about Ruthie J and La Rosa Negra. However, you know, they haven't won a contenders match to challenge for the title. So it's really been an issue of like keeping the women in the NWA here. They did at the was it the 73rd when they had that Empowered pay-per-view. They had a few women tag teams in-house, but most of them are no longer with the NWA. Like the Hex, they're gone. And so, I mean, there's opportunity, right? You can make a lot of makeshift tag teams. You know, Ruthie J and La Rosa Negra seem to be a very good fit. But King Bees do not have a steady list of contenders to choose from at the moment, and the NWA hasn't done a whole lot to change that. Again, with re-signing Markova, maybe that's the plan, but we have to wait and see. Shaw Mega says Joe Alonzo is a top heavyweight. I don't think Joe Alonzo is a top heavyweight. He barely is a top junior heavyweight. Like, I like the kid, but let's not get crazy, man. He's certainly not the most well-rounded superstar in the NWA. But he's good. And just like Shogun said, you know, Joe Alonzo's good, but the promo Corgan cut against him a few weeks ago was terrible. Yeah. Robert Dinkins says Bowen. Izzy Marino won the MPW title. I believe he's talking about Mission Pro. Again, Mission Pro is a good promotion, and it seems like the NWA has convinced some Mission Pro talent to work here. Obviously, the King Bees, the tag team champions for the NWA, are also the Mission Pro tag champions. And former champions, the Renegade Twins, also were NWA Women Tag Champions. But we don't have, it's not like a direct pipeline. Now, maybe that'll change with Exodus Pro and Mission Pro working together. But, at some point, the NWA just needs to invest in that division or allow it to quietly disappear. DK says, put the title back on Colby. I don't hate that idea. I liked Colby a lot. It sounds like they want to push Colby in the heavyweight division, which again, if we're going to talk measuring sticks, right, we look at somebody like Tim Storm, Jack Stane, MURKNOX. Most of these guys are over 6 foot. Most of these guys are over 300 pounds or close to it. How is putting Colby Carino, who's maybe 5'8", 5'9" at best, 150 pounds, 170 pounds at best, in the ring with these guys? Like, why do that? It doesn't make Colby Carino look more believable. It just makes it look sillier when he gets a victory over a heavyweight. You've got that junior heavyweight division. There's nothing wrong with the junior heavyweight division. Make that a shining star for the NWA. Willie Bowen says Mecha Wolf could be an opponent for Joe Alonzo. He has lost a lot of weight, too. Mecha Wolf is in a different shape right now. Mega says, don't limit Joe Alonzo. Fair enough. Let's see. Steve G says, Viva Van that Vegas promotion. Oh, FSW. Yeah, I think she still competes for them as well. Free the TV titles. DK, I'm with you on that. Will this be taped? No, I don't believe this event. If it's being taped, I think it'll be like a Thriller distribution. I don't think it'll be on YouTube. I could be mistaken. I'll ask around. I'll find out. But it is not being taped for Championship Wrestling or United Wrestling Network release. So Royce is kind of back, but remember, this is a West Coast Pro Wrestling event in conjunction with the United Wrestling Network. So it's not really a UWN event. So Royce isn't, like, he was on our podcast a few weeks ago. This isn't his return to the United Wrestling Network. Of course he's going to be cordial, say hi to his friends, but he's representing West Coast Pro Wrestling for this event. How far is Irvine? Irvine for me is about an hour and a half. So I will leave here. I will take the toll roads. I will get there probably about an hour and a half if I'm lucky. Noob says he agrees with me. The looks at Kill Bean in the Crockett Cup pretty much destroyed any credibility from both Markova and Bryan. Both of their bookings are just random this year. And it's okay to be random at times, but it just feels like you derail any momentum that either of them have. Like, maybe Idol would be a decent TV champion. The thing about those titles, the TV titles especially, DKM said free the TV titles. Those titles I feel like can be so beneficial in helping talent get over, that just leaving them on Max is so wasteful. Max is bigger than a title. Max has a draw for a lot of fans, and putting a title on Max when Max isn't defending either title on a regular basis seems just very dumb. Now, if you're going to put Max on TV every week and Max is defending a title against a man, defending a title against a woman every week or every other week, then I'm okay. Fine. You got me. I can't say anything. But the fact of the matter is that Max has only defended that title a handful of times since securing it. Max secured the bag for the women's title, secured the title for the men's division, and then sat on them and has done shit with them. So it's disappointing to me as a fan of the TV title. As a fan of the TV title, I'm very disheartened to see it just sitting there collecting dust. And look, Magic Jake challenged for it a few weeks ago on TV. Cool. Great. Do you remember when the Pope was wrestling every other week or every 2 weeks? And when he wasn't on TV, he was, in a match, he was on commentary or cutting a promo. God, the Pope did so much for the TV title, and the last two champions, well, not the last two, but the last two long-term champions have kind of squandered the value of that title belt. Had big hopes for Mims. They squashed that quickly when Max won the belt. And, I don't have any problem with Max being champion other than Max doesn't defend the title nearly enough. Willie Bowen says Danny Limelight or Laredo Kid versus Joe Alonzo. Yeah, sure. I don't think you're going to see Danny Limelight in an NWA ring. I think it's just too close. They could have brought him in with Slice Boogie. They could have brought in Papo Esco too. They chose only to bring in Slice Boogie for a very brief time. And you don't see a lot of the NWA talents and the United Wrestling Network talents crossing over. I mean, it was like Jordan Clearwater, and that's really about it. That's about it. Car Shield is a scam. Yeah, I mean, look, if the check clears, all is well. And hey, Robert, thanks for checking us out. We're here every Tuesday, same time. We're also here on Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Freya the Slayer should be wrestling Max the Impaler. I have no problem with that at all. Max the Impaler, Freya the Slayer, that could be a big, big deal if they would promote it. Jeez, Will. Markova has improved as a wrestler and promo skills. It's time to put the belt on her. Yeah. I mean, why not? I think David Marquez is a genius. Look at all the champions and stars he's made. Yeah, David Marquez, and look, he hasn't done it alone. He'll be the first one to tell you, but he does find something about these guys. When he started working with Danny Limelight had kind of been casted out as a pariah here in Southern California. He went against the wishes of his training facility, and they really went after him. They tried to bury him. I mean, they even told me a story that made me think, like, what is this guy even doing? Who does he think he is? And then when you hear the story from the other perspective, you kind of realize, like, they were trying to bury that guy. And Dave Marquez was really the only person that would book Danny Limelight. And then to this day, there are very few promoters locally that'll book Danny Limelight, but you see him getting matches all over the United States. He's working in Puerto Rico. He's working for Las Vegas. He's working out in Wisconsin, and he's working for Reality Wrestling on TV with Booker T I mean, come on. The dude has some talent. And in my opinion, you're dumb if you don't book him. He's being used in Mexico. He's being used in Puerto Rico. I mean, the guy is marketable. The guy speaks, he's fluent in Spanish and English. He can cut a promo. He's got a lot of heart in the ring. He has a good look. I don't get it, but I'm also not a promoter, so it's not up to me. Markova has improved herself. I do believe that her winning the women's TV title would be awesome because that title was booked poorly as of late with 0 title defense. 100%. Noob, you don't know who Juventud Guerrero is? Guerrera, by the way. No, he's great. Juventud Guerrera, you'll enjoy. He, in the same vein as Rey Mysterio Jr., just a great cruiserweight, great junior heavyweight from Mexico. Has a little problem keeping his nose clean, if you know what I mean. But I think, he's a little bit older now, a little bit wiser now. I would like to see him get a run in the NWA. I would love to see him challenge Joe Alonzo for that junior heavyweight title. Miami's closer to Orlando than it is to Jacksonville. That's fair. Steve G says he was a star in the Crockett Promotions or WCW. It was WCW. Juventud was a star in WCW at that point. He was not a part of Crockett Promotions. Oh, okay. Noob was joking. Okay, fair. Willie says that they should terminate the TV title. I don't know if I'd like that either. Steve G says Max took the Roman Reigns class about being a ghost champion. Well, I mean, let's be honest. You can't blame Max. Max can only wrestle the matches that are assigned to Max, right? So, again, this is all Billy. Anything good that the NWA does, I give Billy 100% credit. Silas Mason, the Southern Six, the Page sisters, the Territory System. I'm going to go ahead and give Billy the flowers for all of that, all of it. But I'm also going to, hold his feet to the flame. Like, hey, the television titles, both men and women, have gone negative value since Max won them. And it's not because of Max. It's because you're not doing anything with the titles. Damn, just put Max in a couple of matches. That's all we ask. If the titles are being defended, I got nothing to complain about. But you're putting Max in meaningless tag team tournament matches. Like, if you're gonna put Judias and Max in that tournament and crown them, cool. Okay, cool. But if that's not the end game, why are we wasting our time with it? Are there not more deserving tag teams out there? Look, Judias and Max are barely tag as it is. It's rarely that they team together on television. I think they've been a tag team once or twice before. So take the belt off of Max and let Max team with Judias and let them go win the U.S. tag titles. Cool. Yeah, great. No problem. Or take the belts, let Max keep the belts, and have Max defend them. And again, I don't care at this point that Max is non-binary. I don't care that, those matches would be non-binary versus a man or non-binary versus a woman. That doesn't even bother me at this point. Just defend the belt. Just have regular title defenses. We do that, I got nothing to complain about. Okay. Well, thanks, guys, so much for tuning in to this edition of the Pre-Party. Again, we're here every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, talking all things NWA, getting you set up for Power, which is available on the CW app. You can watch on your time when you're ready. Just go to the CW app, and boom, it's right there. Every week beginning Tuesday, February 6th, on the app or the Google App Store. Either way, that's an old graphic. They should really update that. And then again, we're here on Thursdays. Jaden, myself, and DKM. We talk about pro wrestling with an emphasis on the NWA, but we talk everything. So join us on Tuesdays or Thursdays live here on YouTube, on Instagram. Not on Instagram, on the X or on twitch.tv. Also, we have social media pretty much everywhere. We have a presence in a lot of places. So if you're on TikTok, boom, we're there. If you're on Instagram, we're there. Facebook, Threads, like the aforementioned X. We're pretty much everywhere. So again, thank you so much for hanging out with me on Tuesday. Stay tuned to our social medias so you could see what I see tonight at the West Coast Pro United Wrestling Network joint event that's happening tonight. But until then, guys, until next time, we'll see you at the matches. Thanks for checking out the pre-party, a presentation of alliance-wrestling.com. You should hit that subscribe button and join our community. I also want to remind you that we recap NWA POWERRR every Thursday at 8 p.m. in the live stream. We try to stay social, so find us at the Alliance blog. And until next time, we are the Alliance.